You are listening to the Good Day Wellness Podcast, a podcast dedicated to boosting your mood. I am your host, Malissa Fedele, and I'm here to support you on the way to calming your mind and nourishing all aspects of your life. Together, we can bridge the connection between body and mind and make every day a good day. Hello, welcome back to another episode of the Good Day Wellness Podcast. I am doing a topic today that was actually requested by a listener, and I honestly think it was very timely considering I feel like I recently experienced a bit of this, and I know that it's just something that we all do, and that is how to find your passion again when you're feeling lost, when you feel like you've lost your spark, that things aren't lighting you up that maybe the way that they once did. You're not feeling as motivated as you once were, and you're just not really sure what step to take next. And I thought I would come on here and share this. And I'm not an expert in all of this. I'm just going to give my tips. But recently, I definitely experienced this myself. End of the year was quite a difficult time for me. I felt very lost. I felt very overwhelmed, very confused. I felt that my goals were too big and too high, that I was never going to achieve them. And that just made even doing the simplest of tasks impossible. It made it feel like everything I was doing was getting nowhere. And because of that, I just totally lost all of my motivation. I didn't want to do anything anymore. I was ready to throw in the towel and just give up on everything that I've been working so hard on for literally the last decade of my life, which is just insane because now I think of that and I'm like, oh my gosh. But I do think that we go through these ups and downs in life. We go through moments where we do kind of lose our sight or our vision on what we want. We lose focus and life can get in the way. When we're talking about career, for example, personal life and the things that are going on behind the scenes, they can sometimes just get in the way and feel so overwhelming and exhausting that putting that energy back into your career and your goals just seems all too much. And that's when you can really get off track. So let's start with, I guess, some of the reasons why we can lose that passion, we can lose that spark. What are some of the reasons for this happening? Like I said, our personal life, that can really take over and just feel really heavy and like we don't have time to focus on anything else. Now, another big part of this is simply you're burnt out. You are burnt out. You are stressed. You are overwhelmed. You are overworked. When we do not allow ourselves to rest, to recover, to take downtime, this doesn't make us more productive. It doesn't propel us forward. It actually makes it harder. And we end up having to take a longer period of time off because we are so exhausted. Not looking after yourself on a physical and emotional level can be one of the biggest reasons why you are continually going in circles and losing your spark, losing your passion. Okay. And that was a big contributing factor for me as well. I had such a big year. I had so many things happening. I was flying interstate all the time. I was doing things, and in the meantime, I was trying to maintain a normal life and everything else that comes with it. And I got to the end of the year and I was completely exhausted and stressed and overwhelmed and burnt out. And it's just like you're burning the candle and the candle has nothing left to burn. And that's it. You really lose sight of what you're doing. Now, another big factor is, life transition. Life happens. Things change. New things come and go. Maybe it was a new job or, you became a parent or, you've gone through a really shitty breakup or maybe you've moved houses or there's been something going on with your health that has made you have to put your focus somewhere else. And, we try and do everything all at once. We really do. We try and maintain everything in balance. And sometimes reaching for that balance in every aspect of your life is actually the reason why we burn out and why we lose sight of what we're doing in the first place. I truly believe, and it took me a long time to realize this and come around to this, but I feel like balance is a bit of a trap. I feel like the word balance, in terms of balancing your career, your lifestyle, your health and wellness, your everything, your relationships, your this, your that, I feel like it can be a little bit of a trap, because there's going to be moments in your life where you need to give more to your career, or you need to give more to your family, or you need to give more to your relationships, or whatever it may be. And when you are doing that and you're giving more, because that's genuinely what you have to do at that point in your life, if you start feeling that guilt of neglecting the time spent in other areas of your life, like career, when you're focusing on family, this sense of guilt, this sense of resentment, this sense of feeling like you're failing is so loud, and it makes it so hard for us to just be where we are and do one thing at a time. So, understand that there are going to be moments in your life where you just have to give certain areas of your life a little bit more or a little bit less to help you navigate where you're at that point. Now, this kind of leads me into my next point, which is that pressure we put on ourselves to make it, to do the things, to monetize what you're doing, to get the promotion, to reach the next level, to tick off every single goal that you set out for yourself. That pressure we put on ourselves to be perfect, to be moving forward a million miles an hour, it makes it so hard for us to actually take a step forward, because the moment something lands in our path, the moment there's a little challenge, the moment something else happens in another area of our life, everything falls apart and we fall apart, and we lose that passion, we lose that motivation, because we feel so suffocated by the right thing to do, by, having to make it and get to the next point. And, that kind of leads into the expectations we put on ourselves of setting way too many goals at once, of having a goal or having a dream or having a career ambition and saying, okay, well, in a month, I need to get a promotion. I need to make X amount of money. I need to grow my social media to this and blah, 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 blah. And setting yourself way too many goals all at the same time, not learning how to prioritize, not knowing how to understand what needs more time, what needs more focus, what needs more energy, is a real trap, because you're always going to be comparing yourself to everyone else, and you're always going to feel like nothing you do is good enough. And when you get into that mentality of, I'm not good enough, I don't deserve this, nothing ever happens for me, I'm so overwhelmed, I'm burnt out, I'm stressed, there is no way you are going to get to that next point of whatever it is you're wanting to do. And that just makes you lose that connection from your goals, from your dreams, from everything you're trying to do. You totally lose sight of the purpose, of the why, and it really just disconnects you from what you love doing. It really disconnects you from the reason why you started out, which makes it so easy for us to lose that passion and that focus. Now, I honestly believe that all of the points that I made, although they are separate, they are all the same, and they all kind of fall into the same category, and one leads on to the other, because when you've got life changes happening and you're not balancing things out, or finding what's taking priority and what's not, it leads to that burnout, it leads to that stress, it then leads to that pressure, that overwhelm, and then that mindset of, I'm not good enough and nothing ever happens for me. That is kind of like the snowball effect of where the root cause of what I believe losing your spark, losing your passion really comes from. Now, let's kind of look at, okay, but how do I know that, I'm in this funk, or I'm feeling unmotivated, or I'm losing sight? you're depleted, you're not lazy. It's not that you don't care, it's just that you're feeling uninspired at the moment. And, maybe you need to really look for craving that meaning, craving that why, craving that love for what you're doing rather than just ticking goals off of a whiteboard or out of your diary or whatever it is, and all of that leads into that guilt. You feel so guilty, you feel so overwhelmed, and it's really hard to get back on track when you are in that mindset. And trust me, I know this myself because I totally got in that funk. I was in that funk where I was telling myself, Melissa, you're just lazy, you're not good enough, you're not smart enough, you can't do this, you should feel guilty. And, all of these thoughts that would just come up that were just so ridiculous because I just wasn't taking care of myself properly or wasn't trying to manage my time as efficiently as I should. And, the longer you leave that, the longer you stay in that funk, the longer you stay in that low, low depletion of what you're doing, the harder it is to move out of it. But it doesn't matter how long you've been in it. All you need to know is that you actually can move out of it. You can move forward and you can reignite that spark and reconnect with your purpose and your passion. So whether it's reconnecting, so whether it's what you want to do, you've just lost sight of it, or whether you're coming from the perspective of, I actually don't know what I want to do and I feel like I need to go down a new path, I genuinely feel like the tips I'm going to share will help you regardless of whether you're at A or B, whether you know what you want to do, you've just lost that spark, or you don't know at all what you're doing and you need to find your path. Okay. Each of these tips will help you regardless of where you're at. Now, the number one tip, the first thing you have to do is take a step back and focus on yourself. Take a step back and figure out what is going to make you feel happy. Okay. And I'm not saying as in work wise, I'm saying find joy in your life, find joy in your day to day, whether that's going to the beach, whether that's going to get your hair done, whether that's creating a beautiful new. Reconnect with something that actually brings you joy and makes you happy. When you are so lost and confused and you don't know what to do and life is getting difficult and tricky and hard, it's so easy to just scramble and get the planning out and get the whiteboard out and start writing your goals and your dreams of what you want to do next. But that's just making it so much more overwhelming, because in those moments where you're feeling lost and confused and you don't know what to do, you just need to reconnect with yourself. You just need to find happiness and joy in your life, in your day to day. Do whatever it is that makes you happy, okay? Change your routine if you need to. For me, this really looked like a big shift in my dietary and lifestyle routines. I really cleaned up my diet. That was the first thing I didn't. This kind of happened for me during the festive period. So the first thing I did was said no more alcohol. I'm not drinking any alcohol. I cut out all stimulants. So, coffee. I didn't drink coffee anymore. I cleaned up my diet. I went very whole food based, really making sure I was getting in those nutrients. And I totally switched up my exercise routine. Instead of going hard at the gym, I reconnected with nature and I committed to low intensity exercises, making a daily walk my number one priority. Going for a walk every day in nature to help me reconnect with myself was such an important part of this. But I also started skipping again. And the reason why I started skipping is because I remember as a kid and growing up, I used to love skipping. It was one of my favorite things to do. I'd always have a skipping rope at home and I just skip. And it was something that brings me joy. And I feel like it was one of those things that reconnected me with my inner child and made me feel happy. So that was something that I really committed to. And thirdly, I also had a major technology detox. So instead of being on my phone, I swapped that for going for a walk or reading a book or doing anything else than going on social media. I do not allow myself to go on my phone in the morning because let me tell you, when you're feeling stressed, overwhelmed, confused, you're feeling anxious, you're feeling on edge, you going on your phone first thing in the morning puts you in such a state of fight and flight. You're allowing in so much negativity or so much comparison into your day first thing in the morning. It's just not healthy. Okay, so that was one of the biggest things that I really did. So, cleaned up my diet, made sure I was moving my body mindfully, stopped going on my phone so much and doom scrolling, and just really made my day-to-day practices more sacred to me, whatever that looks like. And whatever that looks like for you will be different, but find what brings you joy. Make more time for your friends, or make more time to spend time in nature, or make more time to color in, or do whatever you can do that brings you joy. Honestly, I feel like when we're in these states, we get so frantic and we think we need to have it all worked out by the next day. When you are feeling so confused and you don't know what to do next, you honestly just need to take a step back. I cannot stress that enough. Sometimes stepping back, switching off for a little bit is the best thing you can do to provide your mind, your brain, and your body with clarity to actually see what's in front of you, what changes you need to make, and what genuinely is going to make you happy in life. When you take a step back, you can see that. But when you're in it, when you're in the chaos, when you're in the hustle and bustle, when you're right in the thick of it, you cannot see anything. You cannot see anything. And it's so hard to make aligned choices and aligned decisions in that headspace. So trust me, when you're feeling that, just take a step back. Okay, that is the first thing. And do this for as long as you need. If you need to take a few weeks off, if you need to take a month off in terms of not stressing about something and just reconnecting with yourself, regardless of what your day to day is, I'm not saying don't go to work for a month, but I'm just saying, try and avoid the stress of knowing what to do next and make it your priority just to take some time to fully reconnect with yourself and calm yourself from that burnout and just replenish your body and your mind. That is number one. If your health is not in a good place, you're not taking care of yourself, everything else is a million times harder. So go back to your basics, go back to nourishing your body, and do the things that make you feel good. Okay, that is the first thing. Find your purpose, find your joy in what makes you feel good. Now, once you're feeling good, once you're in a bit of a flow, you've got a little bit of clarity, you're not feeling so on edge, you're not feeling like you're in the thick of this chaos, that is when you reconnect with your why. Okay, that is when you kind of go back and you start thinking about your reason for why you want to do whatever it is you want to do. And I'm not saying you need to know what that thing is yet, but first you need to know why. What is it you want to do? For me, I know that I want people to feel their best mentally and physically through the power of good nutrition. I know that my mission is to help people understand that regardless of how chaotic they might feel in their mind with their anxiety, with their mental health, that they can actually find some peace in their food. And I know that that makes me feel good. I want people to go on a path where they know that they can heal. They know that there is a light at the end of the tunnel. And a way to do that is actually through your food. That is my why. I want people to feel good mentally, physically, emotionally. That's my why. That makes me happy. I love to help people. I love to give. I love to teach. Okay, that is my why. So you really need to go back and, if you don't know where to start, go back to thinking about what did you love doing as a kid? Like, what is something when you were a little kid that you loved to do and it made you so happy? And if I think about that, one thing I actually loved to do as a kid was I used to make lemonade stands at the front of my house, even though we lived in an area where not many cars come past, and I would make my lemonade and I would sell it at the front, and that would make me so happy, and I would sit out there all day long. I also really loved being outdoors. Like I loved moving, I loved playing with my siblings, like I loved the form of movement. And of course, food was always a big part of my life. I loved that I grew up in a fruit and veg store with my family. I loved that I was involved in that process. So for me, a lot of my why and what I loved as a kid does come back to food. It comes back to sharing. It comes back to quality. It comes back to that lifestyle. So think about what you really love to do as a kid. Maybe you love to paint. Maybe you love to sing. Maybe you love to dance. What is it? Go back to your why as a kid. And, what do you do? This is another good one. What do you do that kind of makes you stop and you kind of lose track of time? You kind of feel planted in where you're at and you're not thinking about anything else. For me, I experience that when I'm in the kitchen and I'm cooking a meal and I'm not following a recipe and I'm just using what I've got and I'm tasting and I'm testing and I'm putting things together and I'm, enjoying the process. That is when I can just totally switch off and my mind is calm and it's clear. That is probably one of the only times that happens for me. And also when I go for my walks. But more so for me, it's when I'm in the kitchen and when I'm cooking. That is something I truly, truly love. And reconnecting with that was really important for me, especially after losing sight of everything I was doing because the hustle and bustle of it all. Going back to remembering why I started, which was because I love cooking. I love teaching basic skills. I love helping people understand that they can use the basic food in their fridge and pantry to put together a meal that's going to not just make them feel good, but it's going to support their mental health. Okay, so go back to that. Think about what you loved as a kid. Think about what you do that makes the time pass without you even realizing it. Okay, and another good way to kind of move through this is give yourself the permission to try something for the first time. Give yourself the permission to be creative without the pressure of it, having to be something. So many times we do something and we think, oh, how can I make a business out of this? Or I need to be really good at it or whatever it is. Sometimes you just need to do things for the joy of doing it to help you feel present and calm. And the reason I say this is because I truly feel like when you're in a state of flow, when you're connected to your body, when you're connected to yourself through whatever activity it is you find joy in, that is when your mind is able to bring those great ideas, those great passions, those great memories, or whatever it is to the forefront of your mind, and you're able to actually see clearly for the first time what you need to do and what steps you need to take forward. Okay. So that's my first tips. Come back to yourself, feel good about who you are and find joy in what you're doing, and then figure out what is your why. Okay. Now, my next step is to start a daily journaling practice. And I cannot stress this enough because when there's so much going on in your life and you're feeling really lost and confused and you're trying to find a new path or a new way forward, we get so caught up in the nitty-gritty bits that, we don't just connect with ourselves. Letting your words flow onto a page, giving yourself space to just write things out, you will be so surprised with actually what pops up for you and what becomes your truth and what becomes your reality. Start getting your journal out, free flowing, free writing, or using prompts or doing whatever you need to do. If you're feeling stuck, you don't know where to start, grab yourself a Good Day Wellness journal, go from there and really start to make that time for yourself in terms of figuring out what you love. Now, if you're thinking, okay, that's all well and good, connecting with yourself, finding what your values are, finding what your purpose is, that's great. If you are someone that, okay, I want to start a new career, I'm exploring different options, I've found my flow again, and now I want to dive into something new. Now, there's a lot of fear that can come in that point, that fear of starting something new, that fear of jumping out of your comfort zone. But the reason why this is a good place to be in is because it means you've kind of found a little bit of a spark. You've got that spark, you've got that passion, and now you're ready to take that next step to taking action on whatever that is, whatever that could be for you. So, what I always say at this point is you've got that curiosity, right? You're like, okay, maybe I want to become, let's say you want to become a nutritionist. You're like, yes, I want to become a nutritionist, but to become a, qualified nutritionist, I need to do a bachelor's degree in health science, which is a 4-year degree. Now, maybe instead of diving straight into that, you first need to do a little bit of research. Do your research. Whatever it is you find that joy in, that passion in, yes, you can dive straight in and go head first, but honestly, my advice is to do a bit of research first. Make sure it is actually your passion that you want to pursue as a career. It's not just a passion that you enjoy doing as a hobby, because they are two different things. I feel like the moment something becomes your career, you do kind of lose that sense of freeness that is there when it's a hobby, okay? So you need to figure out which path you want to take this. Okay. And the way to do that is researching, doing things like, is there a short course that you can take up that you can kind of dip your toes in a little bit, that you can help to wrap your head around a few basic principles of what this looks like? Is there someone in that career that you've now discovered you're like, okay, this could be really cool? Is there someone that you could interview, that you could sit down with and have a coffee with, or pick up the phone and have a chat with them and say, hey, can I ask you these 5 questions about your career? What are the challenges? What are the pros? What are the cons? What are this? What are that? And do a little bit of research. Listen to podcasts. There is almost a podcast on every single topic you could ever think of. So find what it is and listen to it. And also just look online, do a bit of research, see what you can find, dip your toes in it a little bit and figure out, is this the right thing for me? Because, I've been there as well, where I've started something, I've been so excited, I found that little spark, and I'm like, all right, I'm going to create a whole business out of this. And then you start and, you get midway through or not even midway through, and you're like, hold on a second, I don't actually want to do this as a career. This isn't something I want to do as a job. Maybe it's just a hobby. So figure out the difference between, is this my career or is this a hobby? That is really, really important. Okay. Now, the last thing that I just want to share is, once you've found your why, you've reconnected with yourself, you've found your passion, you found that joy, and, you've dipped your toes into whatever that may be, give yourself some grace, give yourself some time. Passions evolve. It might not light you up straight away, or maybe it's not something that's like super fiery in your belly, but there's that niggling feeling that maybe it will be, or maybe there's potential there. Give it some time. Don't let the moments where you're feeling stressed, down, and burnt out completely blow everything out, because it's very easy to do that. It's very easy to get yourself in a negative headspace and think, actually, this isn't for me. I'm not doing any of it, which then leads you down this path of, in a few years' time or a few months' time, thinking, damn it, I should have never given up. I shouldn't have stopped. I should have, just regrouped and got myself back on a good path. Okay. So that's more so for anyone who is experiencing that lack of motivation. They've lost their spark. They're not sure where to go with it. Don't allow a bad day to throw out years of your hard work, okay? Because that's what I almost did. And when I think of that now, I could almost kick myself that I was ready to just give everything up. But in getting to that rock bottom and getting to that point of, nah, I'm not doing this anymore, that is when I actually rebuilt. From there, I built a website. I created my digital products. I now have a course that I'm doing. There is so many steps that I actually took that were more productive in 2 months than I had done in literally the whole time I was doing all of this. So just know that even if you are in that down phase, you're in that moment of not knowing what to do, you're feeling stressed, you're feeling overwhelmed, it's okay to feel those feelings. It's okay to be in that moment. Okay. We're not always going to feel electric and motivated and passionate and, have this fire in our belly to do all the things. There are going to be moments where we feel low, we feel depleted, and we just need to take a step back. In taking a step back, you're able to see things clearly. Okay. It's about creating a path that works for you. Life is, there's never an end point. Even when, you get to a point where you think this is what I wanted for so long, you're then putting another goal in place and you're like, okay, now I need to get there. Okay. You're always evolving. You're always growing. So give yourself the grace to know that it's okay if at the moment things aren't where you want them to be. Just take a step back and regroup, and you'll eventually find your way and work your way back up. Okay. But this is part of life. Okay. So let me just go over my tips. First thing you need to do when you're in a funk, you don't know what to do, you've lost that spark, you've lost your passion, is reconnect with yourself. Find what makes you happy and do that every day. It doesn't need to be anything in particular, it doesn't need to be the same as anyone else, just whatever it is, reconnect with it and nourish yourself. Find that joy in yourself. Pursue yourself rather than pursuing everything else. Okay, once you have done that, you're feeling reconnected. Figure out what is your why. What is your why? What makes you happy? What do you do that you enjoy so much that you forget about looking at the clock? Figure out what your why is. Why are you here on this earth? What do you want to do? What is the message you want to share with other people? What do you want to be known for? Okay. Now, once you've done that, dip your toes into whatever it is that might be. Get a feel for it. Ask questions. Do your own research. Okay. Be smart about the actions that you're going to take and the next steps that you are about to embark on. Okay. And then lastly, just give yourself grace. Know that this is life. There are going to be ebbs and flows. There are going to be ups and downs, and that is okay. That is all part of the journey. Don't throw out all of your hard work just because you're having a bad day or a bad month or a bad year. Okay. Figure out, what it is you want in life and pursue that. I hope this really helps because, it was a bit of a short, sharp, and straight to the point one. But, I feel like when we're lost, everyone's looking for that magic answer. We're looking for someone to tell us the secret formula and give us the answer. But honestly, it's just about coming back to yourself and taking a step back. And, you may not have all the answers right now, and you may not have the answers in a month or 6 months or whatever, but they will come. Life is an evolution of who you are, of what you want to do. And it's a constant growth period. You're constantly growing, you're constantly evolving, you're constantly changing. So you can't expect to always want the same things. You can't expect that the passion you set out or the goal that you set out when you were 20 is going to be the same when you're 25, or then when you're 30, or then when you're 35. Life is going to change as you change, and so are your passions. So you just need to figure out what your why is, what lights you up, and how you can continue to grow and evolve. Don't look at what other people are doing. Don't get caught up in the structure of how other people are doing things in the industry. Build your own path, pave your own way, and do it in a way that works for you, that makes you happy. At the end of the day, you're the only one who's going to be doing this for the rest of your life. You may as well take charge and do it in a way that really works for you. Okay. So I hope that helps. If this resonates with you, I hope it helps. If you think it's going to resonate with a friend, please share it with them, because, we all need a little boost every now and then. We all need a little spark in the right direction. So if you do enjoy this one, please let me know. Send me a DM, and I would love it if you could please leave me a 5-star review on Spotify or Apple iTunes. It really helps this podcast to grow and reach new people. That is all from me today. And remember, you have the power to boost your mood. It's all in your daily routines. So go make today a good day. Bye. Mwah.